I am very excited to have Israel Gutierrez in studio with us today. The first thing he says to me as he as he looks at these beautiful studios here, and we'll talk about those in the coming days here. I want to introduce people to where we're at and who we're doing some work with here. But the first thing you said to me, Izzy, was, are you wearing socks? He's looking at my Stupidity logo, and he's like, Stu, are you wearing socks while you're taking a deuce? And
I never noticed. Like, you're completely unclothed except for the socks. So I'm like trying to follow the thinking. Were you going straight from the toilet to the shower, forgot to take your socks off? Were you like getting dressed, went socks first and said, got to take a quick dump, or QK, if you will.
Right.
And then went to, I'm not sure. I never noticed the socks, and it just creates a whole storyline.
I'm trying to imagine the scenario in which you would wear socks while taking...
I mean, you'd have to have a very dirty bathroom floor that you don't want to put your bare feet on.
That, or you put your socks on first and realize, oh, I got to go. You know? Because sometimes the bending over to put socks on will force it out. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good point. My mom used to say, and I always used to be very confused by this, that whenever you walk around the house with, like, sandals with socks, that it looks like you have diarrhea.
Right.
Which I've never made any sense to me. How do you look like you have diarrhea unless you're going like this? So, yeah, the socks thing, I don't know. Maybe it makes sense now.
Wait, can you make the diarrhea look again, please?
Yeah, you ready?
Yes. Is that the look?
Yeah, I think so. I very rarely have diarrhea. I don't really go in my pants very often.
You don't. It's been a while,
When people tell stories about shitting themselves, I'm just like, really? This just happens? Like, it's embarrassing. I don't know. It's never happened to me.
It's never happened to you?
No.
Taylor, it's definitely happened to you.
Rectal integrity is high.
I will tell you, the Oilers shit themselves last night. How about that?
Hey-o. Dude, what a pathetic group of guys they looked like last night. Like, they just looked like a bunch of sore losers. Who was the guy who just went off on Sam Bennett? And Sam had the, I don't know what you want to call it, just the patience to just sit there and take some of that.
Yeah.
I'm a little annoyed with the Connor McDavid discussion, at least the way they talk about it. Like Mike Ryan talks about it, it's just like, and the way Dan talks about it sometimes, it's just like, oh, the greatest thing ever is coming through the sport. It's like, relax.
Right.
All right? Like, you know who he is? I got a great comp for you, Steve.
Okay.
So there's two names in the basketball comp that I think of when I think of Connor McDavid. And I think of people who you look at them and just like, wow, how does somebody do that?
Sure.
Like size, skill, ability, everything, right?
Because when you're watching hockey, and you're watching the Oilers in particular, you could tell that there's one guy on the ice who's better than everyone else.
Right.
Yes.
You know who that looks like often to me? I'm going to take it back a little further, and then I'm going to give you the guy that I like that I think you're going to like. Okay. Tracy McGrady. Mm-hmm. NBA player who you're like, how in the hell is he doing that?
Thank you, Taylor. I was drinking water.
How is he, so quick with the handle? How is he pulling up from three? How is he jamming on? He did everything you could imagine a basketball player you wanted him to do, and did it at a ridiculously high level.
The talent was undeniable.
Did he win anything?
No.
Nothing.
Right?
Yes. So I don't know. I'm not as sharp on hockey as I am on basketball. I haven't watched it my entire life, but I can tell it takes more than one player to win at this level. And yes, Connor might be the guy that if you want to put together a highlight tape, of course I'm going to watch that shit.
Sure.
If you want to say, hey, there's one person I want on my team at any given point, I'm going to pick the most skilled guy. But you're telling me I'm supposed to be afraid of this dude just because he's this skilled? I'm going to tell you the other name. You ready for it?
Yep.
Kevin Durant.
Wow, I like that.
He's Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
He is.
He has as many rings as Kevin Durant, right?
Precisely. And so, again, it's a matter of, love to watch that dude play, would want him on my team. I'm not going to be scared of the guy. Don't tell me I should be scared of this guy because it's a thing we've never seen before. Okay, he's a super talented player and maybe like the next evolution, but when did that ever just win you championships, either in hockey or even in the NBA?
I like the comps.
Maybe LeBron.
They're totally fair. Taylor was telling me yesterday that McDavid was having a good Stanley Cup. He hasn't scored a goal. You cannot be the game's best player, and I don't care if you have 75 assists through 2 games. That would be impressive. But you cannot be the best player in the sport, considered the best player in the sport, talked about as an all-time great, and not have a goal through 3 games in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Dude, if you've never seen hockey and you show me that, let's say, series of plays from Sam Bennett, where it was slam the shit out of this guy, hit the crap out of this guy,
careening everywhere,
score like a... I mean, I don't know what that is. It was like 4 dekes or something. I don't know. I just call it like a double crossover. and like you would have showed me that clip. I would have said, there he is. That's the best player in hockey.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Nothing that, I mean, Connor McDavid's super impressive, like ridiculous jaw-dropping stuff. But there are other good players in this game. And Sam Bennett right now looks like the most high-impact player on the ice.
What we're talking about is team versus player. You can make the argument that the Oilers have the two best players on the ice every time they take the ice, including when they play the Florida Panthers.
Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook.
Draisaitl and McDavid.
It's a great pairing. They've got some more depth on there, but it's just a different style of play. It's like I don't really like this comp either, but if you go 0-4 Lakers versus the Detroit Pistons, and the Panthers are the Pistons. They have a style, they have a defense, they have a thing that really ticks you off,
right.
And they'll let your best player go around and look like a good player every once in a while, but not really for the most part for the 7-game series.
This is team versus a couple of individual players, and you have a third and a fourth line who's as productive as your first line. You have a good team, and that's why the Panthers are on the verge of back-to-back Stanley Cups. It feels like the Islanders in the 80s, this team.
And I have a stat to kind of back up that team versus player thing. This was just the 13th playoff game in which McDavid and Draisaitl both failed to record a point. The Oilers, 2-11 in those 13 games. Draisaitl also failed to register a shot attempt in the game for just the second time in 93 playoff games.
Now, that dude, after last year, after they lost, was all emotional, was all say, oh, we're going to be back, blah, blah, blah. How embarrassed do you think Connor McDavid is for his team right now, given that, I understand having your guys back or whatever, but, there was that one hit on McDavid. I think Ekblad got the one hit on McDavid, but them just sort of acting out and just going off on Sam Bennett and going up, that was so childish. And Connor McDavid's got to be thinking, this is the team that I'm going to get this revenge with? Like these bunch of children that embarrassed themselves and got all these 10-minute game misconducts? It's not going to work out for them.
He wants to be on the Panthers. He's jealous of what the Panthers have. He's like, I got to do this shit all by myself, man. They got 4 lines of people. They're coming in waves at me.
That would be perfect for the Kevin Durant comparison.
Yes.
If he leaves this offseason and goes to the Panthers.
Wow, my next chapter. Yes. I'm taking my talents to Sunrise, not South Beach.
It's amazing that we are the hockey capital of the world.
Yeah.
Sunrise, Florida. And the reason I said it feels like the Islanders in the 80s is in New York, you have 2 teams to root for just about every sport with the exception of basketball. So you have the Rangers and the Islanders. You have the Jets and the Giants. You have the Mets and the Yankees.
Yeah, the Nets do not exist in this scenario.
The Nets do not exist in this scenario or really any scenario for that matter. But the Islanders won 4 straight cups. They went to 5, drive for 5. They lost to Edmonton. Gretzky finally. So it's a similar thing with a 4th Stanley Cup, and it was a little team out in Long Island. And this is a little team in Broward County, which feels like Long Island.
The trek from Miami to Sunrise is about the same as Manhattan to the end of Long Island.
Right, to the end of, well, not really the end of Long Island, but to Hempstead, Long Island, with the Nassau Coliseum.
I'm going to have to trust you on that.
And so this is interesting because you had the Islanders win their 4th straight cup against an up-and-coming Edmonton team, and they had Wayne Gretzky. And Gretzky, you could say people talk about McDavid the way they talked about Gretzky back in the 80s. So the Islanders beat the Oilers. Same 2 teams play again the next year. Islanders going for 5. Oilers desperately trying to get there first, and the Oilers get it done. They win. They go on their run after that. This Oiler team is not constructed the way that Oilers team was because they're not deep enough. That Oilers team had 3 or 4 lines that were great. Yes, everyone focused on Gretzky and Messier and Paul Coffey and Yari Curry. And I can make an argument that McDavid right now, as it stands, is not a top 5 Edmonton Oiler of all time. I could easily, he hasn't won a cup. I can make that argument. But the Panthers, it is laugh out loud funny that we have a team in Sunrise, Florida. And Kenny Albert, the voice of the Stanley Cup, is going to join us here in a little bit. I'm excited about that. But it is funny that we have a team in Sunrise, Florida, that is the center of the hockey universe.
Yeah.
For the 3rd consecutive year.
And they're so unbothered, which is what I really love about them. I think having Matthew Tkachuk as your leader is kind of the perfect symbol for this team. He does feel like a laid-back sort of South Florida guy, but he's got a lot of he's got a lot of jerk in him, but it's like a casual, you want to be me type of feel.
He feels Miami. He feels like, he's cool, but he could snap at any moment.
Yeah.
Yes, that's, that guy.
I
it's everyone who lives down here.
He's got a second, because he's not married, right? So he's got a second home that he just uses for parties.
Oh, Kachuk?
Oh, yeah.
Chucky?
For sure.
He's always in the mix.
Yeah.
He's always in the middle of it.
I think if he becomes an even bigger star somehow, I think people will probably get involved in his life, but I think he's living the absolute life down here.
I think he came here so people can get out of his life.
That's true. That's true.
Because we don't care. I mean, once we win the Cup and we have a parade down Flamingo Boulevard, I mean, are we going to do the beach again?
What the hell is Flamingo Boulevard?
Flamingo.
Is that down in Miami?
No, it's here.
Oh, it's up there by Sunrise.
Yeah,
I thought that was just one of the parking lots at Sawgrass.
No, you go down the Sawgrass Expressway, you get off, there's an Ed Morse, of course, and it's right to your left. There's a Sawgrass Ford, it's out there. Right. Sunrise is just a mall and 5-car dealerships plus a quarter-deck restaurant.
Yeah.
That's about it.
And
we roll hockey.
But the parades are down on the beach.
It was terrible.
It was sad last year.
Can you talk about a parade before you have a parade?
I think so.
I mean, I don't care. I'm just wondering, can you?
You mean like superstition-wise?
Yeah. If you're a Panthers fan, can you even start thinking about a parade yet? Or
no, you can talk about last year's parade, though.
I think
that's fair.
You can celebrate last year.
Yeah, you can just talk about it. Be like, hey, if we have another one, let's compare it to last year's. I think that's fair.
But Izzy, you've been in this market for so long. Can you speak to just how irrelevant this Panther organization was for so long? Because they were bad. They were one of the worst organizations in hockey. They were one of the worst organizations in sports.
So I was a columnist in this city for 5 years, from around 2007 to 2012, before I went to ESPN full time.
When having a column mattered.
I don't know how many Panthers columns I did. It's probably single figures.
Sure.
But as a columnist in this town, I didn't really feel like I had to know anything about hockey.
Right.
And that tells you everything you need to know.
Right.
Like, granted, yes, I was the guy who they leaned on more for basketball stuff and sort of, not as much football and hockey. But I did an season opening game in New York, Madison Square Garden. I didn't know what the hell I was watching.
Right.
And so it was, there was the one run when I was just graduated high school where they got to the Stanley Cup final. And then after that, it was just like, okay, they're always like close to the playoff. They always have an interesting name that I always felt like would come to South Florida to retire, really, whether it's Pavel Bure, Jágr, whomever. But it's such a change. And it's funny because it seems like the people around the team never changed because they had their hardcore Broward County fans, but everybody else has just been like, we'll join if they happen to be good. And now they're good and everybody loves it.
I'm okay with that, though. Like, people get on Panther fans for being on the bandwagon. Most fan bases are bandwagon fan bases. Why would you go see a team if you know the product is lousy?
The same
would you
thing
go see a movie if I told you the movie was lousy? No. You wouldn't go see the movie.
It's kind of like these Instagram or whatever reels. Something's going to hit and go. They gave you no reason to be a fan up until, maybe 96, but they gave you no real reason to be a fan up until the last 3 or 4 years.
Right. And now they've given you every reason to be a fan, and the fan base is showing up. And when they're lousy again, they won't show up, and I don't blame them.
Nobody does front runner better than South Florida. Like, just jumping on the bandwagon.
But I think South Florida gets a bad reputation for that. I think that's most cities. Like, yes, if the Cubs are bad, people are going to Wrigley Field. If the Yankees are bad, people are probably still going to Yankee Stadium. Those are the exceptions. They're not the norms.
So you're saying that people in Indiana weren't like all crazy about WNBA basketball before Caitlin Clark got there?
Yeah, I'm saying that. That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying they also care about the Pacers in a way now because the Pacers are good that they didn't care about the Pacers 10 years ago when they weren't good. I mean, that's natural, with the exception of very few. Red Sox, Cubs, teams like that, right?
Well, the worst is like when you try to jump on the bandwagon and those original fans, those long-term fans, like those are that's why I like that. Like, nobody's really been like, oh, this is my team, being protective of it. They welcome all to this Panthers cat wagon.
I got a friend who's a little bit annoyed, I got to be honest with you. I mean, he used to have the entire arena to himself. I mean, everyone's, tickets are more expensive.
Can I say something about hockey tickets?
His name's Walter Katz.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
The lower down tickets, the ones, unless you're like on the glass behind the goal, not that great. There's a lot of the ice you can't really see from your spot, and you've got to like
such a good point,
right?
Yeah.
I'd rather be up in the 300s. I could see everything.
Wait, so you're saying unless you're in the front row, there's no sense in being in row 2, 3, 4, 5. No. You might as well be in like row 17.
I was in row 4. Now, granted, it was the game in the conference finals where the Panthers didn't score a damn goal and lost, and I was really annoyed that I was the jinx, and that was the reason that they lost.
Yeah.
But I was in row 4, and I was like, hey, this is great. until the puck went over there.
Right.
And then I was like, I can't see what the hell's
Can't
going
see the
on
puck.
over there. I got to look up at the screen. So then I'm just doing this the whole time, sort of a little disoriented, looking up, looking down. And unless the goal was happening right in front of me, didn't really get to see a whole lot.
But
I
you
kind of want to be up higher.
But you got fourth row. I mean, there's some status with fourth row, Izzy. I mean,
Yeah,
there
the
is.
status is, hey, we know what you paid for.
If you could get first row, though, you want first row.
Yeah, the status with fourth row is you're not big enough. You're not a big enough star to get front row. Yes.
Exactly. You look at those people 3 rows ahead of you, you're like, what did they do to get that?
Like Walter.
Yeah.
What did he do? He bought season tickets the original year they came out. What year did the Panthers, was it 90, 93, 94?
Was it before or after the Heat? It was after the Heat, right?
Yeah, but
So
there are
it was-
people, there's like a fan base that has season tickets since day one that they're like, hey, Miami, get the hell out of here, you know? It's not your
93,
team.
94 was their first.
93, and they made the Cup 96, 97, Van Beesbrook. And that was the last time they were good.
They had Pavel Bure for that little bit.
They did. But they're not just good. This is like dynasty type stuff. This is like, we're going to win the Cup this year, and you have no reason to think that they're not going to be right back where they are now next season. Same with the Oilers, by the way.
I know they all got hurt and stuff, but this was like when the Warriors, after winning 2 straight with Durant, picked up Boogie Cousins out of nowhere. It's like, wait a second, that's not fair.
Right. I want to. We'll get to your delayed French Open take here in a second.
We
It's
can
the
delay it a
rare
little
delayed
further.
tennis take on a Tuesday. We spent a lot of time with Russo and Adnan Virk yesterday talking about the French Open. We will get to that. I wanted to ask you though, Izzy, because I was thinking about this last night. Originally, when the Knicks got rid of Tom Thibodeau, after taking them to a place they haven't been to in 25 years, the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, they lose to the Pacers. I don't want to say in large part, but it certainly had something to do with the outcome because of a lucky shot by Halliburton, which was probably one of the worst decisions in the history of the NBA. He was inside the paint and decided to go back further away from the hoop, but not far enough where he was taking a 3. He was taking a long 2, goes off the rim, goes in. Pacers end up winning that series. Knicks fire Tom Thibodeau. I originally thought when Thibodeau was fired, because you don't make a move like that unless you know you have the next coach waiting.
Right.
You know you have a deal done with that guy. And so I thought it was going to be Thibodeau out, and the next day the Knicks were going to announce their head coach. And they still haven't announced their head coach. And now you have Brian Windhorst saying there is interest in Jason Kidd. And for my money, you did not fire Tom Thibodeau to get a coach who's not as good as the coach you currently had. All right? And Jason Kidd, good coach. Tom Thibodeau, in my opinion, is a better coach. I want the Knicks, okay? Tell me if you think this would happen. I want the Knicks. Hold up a hand. Say, my bad. We got this wrong. We are rehiring Tom Thibodeau. What do you think? It'd be a great move by the Knicks. It'd be a very popular – Jason Kidd, no one wants him. No one cares. They want Thibodeau.
Well, it's funny because as soon as the trade happened, like I was talking to Amin about it, and we did this little thing where I was just like, the Knicks ruined it. Like, why do you have to fire him so fast?
Right.
Like, it's only been 3 days since you were in the conference finals. And for who? For Johnny Bryant? Because it felt like they had to, move fast so they can get one of the guys that Phoenix was going to hire. And then when Phoenix hired the guy, it's like, oh, okay, the Knicks are going to hire Johnny Bryant. Now it's like, no, we're still exploring things. We're going to look at Jason Kidd. What? Like, why are we – you signed Tom Thibodeau to an extension. He hasn't even gotten to that point in his contract yet. It's James Dolan, it feels like, just getting in there and being like, hey – let me fix this. Let me put the final piece to this puzzle in there. And it's like, what are you doing? Why are we trusting the owner? Not that, the GM can then say, no, owner, get out of here.
Right.
But why are we trusting James Dolan's decision-making? Can't we talk him off of this and say, hey, maybe Thibodeau deserves another year, maybe even just another month to think about it? It's been 3 days. Like, it was really very Nick of them.
I thought it was going to be Danny Hurley. Just
see, that would have been a good one, like an immediate move.
No, but if you fire Thibodeau and bring in Danny Hurley the next day, that suggests to me you did your research, you have your guy, you identified your guy. This is the guy you want, and that's why you fired Tom Thibodeau. Now they just look like morons.
Well, it doesn't help that they don't have somebody there. But even if it was Dan Hurley, you really think the New York fan base is going to embrace a college coach and say this college coach is going to put us over the top? Like, I get a coach being changed, whether it be Cleveland, whomever, the Warriors going from one to the next and winning a championship the next year, but it's not going to be a college guy.
Right.
I mean, Steve Kerr didn't have any coaching experience, so that one was kind of crazy, but you're probably not going to get that again.
No, Steve Kerr, I mean, he took over what Mark Jackson had built.
Does it make you mad remembering that the Knicks had a chance at Steve Kerr?
To get Steve Kerr?
Yeah, and Phil Jackson was there, could have gotten him.
Yeah. He chose Golden State,
He chose a franchise that hadn't won a championship in 40 years, and actually, the Knicks were longer than that. Never mind.
Yes. I think people were shocked by that. Steve Kerr made the right decision, obviously.
Yeah, clearly. Well, he really wanted to coach Steph Curry.
Well, who wouldn't want to coach Steph Curry?
Well, he wanted to trade for a draft pick early on that would have gotten him Steph Curry in that draft, and would have traded Mari Stoudemire for it. Instead, he had to go the coaching route.
You know who built that Warriors team? Mark Jackson. He's available. Go sign him.
No, thank you.
Really?
Nah, he was a mess.
You have issues with Mark Jackson,
Everybody has issues with Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson.
Who doesn't?
He was a disaster in that locker room. There were people in there that just literally told
But he did
people
build that team. He helped build that team.
He helped build that team with phrases like, "You've got a demon in you." Let me get. I'm not kidding. Like, he was a weirdo.
Okay. All right.
I had to work with that dude for a long time.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I have so many follow-ups.
We'll talk. We'll talk later.
Off air? I don't want to talk off air. Our audience wants it on air. What's the matter with you?
That's all right. I don't know. There's no reason to put out personal beefs. It's okay.
It's okay. So who should the Knicks hire, Izzy? What do you think?
I mean, honestly, I thought the firing of Tom Thibodeau was questionable, like I said. So is there somebody out there that is readily available, right? I don't really know enough about Johnny Bryant, let's say, since I brought that name up. Is he more of an offensive-minded guy, or is – because, like, Tom Thibodeau, the trick was you've got to turn the Knicks – or his strength is you've got to turn Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson, a team led by those two, into a defensive team somehow. He couldn't do it. And that's pretty much why he's gone. So what you need is somebody who can take those two guys and enhance their strengths, really make them an unstoppable scoring duo. And, you know, if you can play defense around them, great. But you already went with a lineup around them that was very good defensively, and it still wasn't good enough. So I think you probably have to think of some sort of offensive wizard, if you will. And, again, not that he's available, but somebody like Steve Kerr, who has this – offensive mind and really could combine things like, things that he learned from Popovich, things that he learned from Phil Jackson, and then put them together. I don't know who that is readily available from anybody, assistant-wise.
Be a good time for Kerr to bail on Golden State and take over the Knicks job.
Yeah,
Be so Kerr, too.
Get the job done that he should have done before.
Let other people build my team, and I'll go swoop in and win championships. What do you got, Taylor?
And whoever does come to the Knicks is walking into the most pressured job where – they just made the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years.
They're expecting a championship.
And it's like, hey, you have to be the guy that gets us over the hump and get us to the championship.
I don't see Jason Kidd being a great option as the head coach of that team. I don't really think he's got the sort of offensive, knowledge to really create a different offense, right? Like to really make an unstoppable offense out of Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. I think he coaches a little bit more traditional.
We'll get to your tennis take in a second. We'll get to Is He or Isn't He, because that's all Taylor's been working on since yesterday's show. Jason Kidd suggests to me that there is a free agent out there that wants Jason Kidd to be the head coach of the New York Knicks. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean,
or a potential free agent, or a potential guy that could be traded to the Knicks.
I think Jason Kidd is a good head coach in that if he's got the right staff around him, I think he's the right figurehead. He's the right person that people will respect. He knows enough about the game. He's obviously created a lot more depth in his knowledge as a coach over these years, and is a better coach now than he was, say, I don't know, Milwaukee. So yeah, I think he'd be fine in New York. Am I super excited that he's going to be the difference maker between conference finals and championship? Not at all. Not at all. And it's not a knock on him necessarily. I mean, what else? Look, the guy's had a ridiculous career. What else am I supposed to say about him? Oh, he's not the greatest coach ever? He's one of the greatest point guards ever. He's a good coach.
You came in today. You were fired up. I asked you what you want to talk about, and all you gave me was I want to challenge Taylor to a race.
Well, no, see, it wasn't so much.
Taylor's a good athlete, man. He's got big thighs. I mean, you're better looking than he is, but
big thighs.
That's the key to running fast. That's what I've been told. Yes,
yeah,
thighs and calves.
I've been working on that too. No. So I was at the Meadowlark Studios recently, a few weeks ago, and feeling good about myself athletically as a 47-year-old. And I'm just like, you know what? My legs right now, the way I've been training them, probably feel better than they did ever. Maybe even 10 years ago, 20 years ago even. And so I'm looking around the room. I'm like, who can't I beat in a race in this Levitard studio?
Right.
It just so happened that Andrew Hawkins was there, so that was the one name.
He's
where
got
I was
you.
like, he's
Yeah.
got me. That guy's got me for sure.
But take Hawk out of the equation.
Take him out of
right?
the equation, and I couldn't. And there was not a single person in there that I didn't think I could beat. But then I realized, ooh, there's somebody that's not here, and he used to play wide receiver at North Carolina
And run track.
Yes.
And so it's Taylor. Now, Taylor, how old are you again?
31.
Okay, so he's 31, so he's got me 16 years, all right?
Right. You're in great shape, though. You're a young. Listen, you're a young 47. Let me tell you.
I'm still getting there. I'm still trying to get in better shape. But, yeah, I would love to see. I think I could challenge him in a 40. I don't know if I could win, but I think I could challenge. But I've never seen Taylor run. This is just based on
I think we have 40 yards right in this studio if you guys want to do it here. I mean,
again, the big difference between me at 47 and Taylor at 31 is I need a lot of warm-up time.
Really?
So I don't know if
Little
we can
stretch?
do that right here. Yeah, I need the right shoes, definitely. I need like about
Really?
half an hour. Yeah. They can't just be out there running willy-nilly.
come back tomorrow and do it.
And the lion doesn't stretch before he goes after the antelope. That's me right now.
Oh, wait.
I could just pop up.
No stretch.
No stretch.
Really?
Right.
I might tear a hamstring in the process, but
Good to be young. I think Taylor would beat. I don't want to say this. Taylor has a shot at beating Andrew Hawkins in a 40. He does.
Really?
Yes, Taylor's a very good athlete, man. He played wide receiver.
Did you like get clocked in the 40 when you were playing?
it's probably like mid 4.5s.
Mid-4. That was back then.
Yes.
Did you
What
go
would
to
you
the
say now?
combine?
No.
You didn't?
No.
Okay. What would you say your 40 time is now?
I think I could ramp it back up to like a high 4.7.
Really?
A high 4.7, maybe
Wow.
low 4.8.
So, Izzy, if
I was expecting
my
you to say a
start-
high
my
4.5. High
start-
4.7 I might be able to compete with.
Really?
My start is the worst part.
okay.
So
You got to get off the block, Taylor.
the longer the race goes, the better chance I'm going to have in the race.
And how tall are you?
5'9".
Okay, so we're
My
pretty
license
similar
says
there.
5'10", but
Yes, mine too. I'm
Probably
5'9" and 3/4. I was worried about
My
the longer
license says
strides, but you don't have
5'9".
the long strides. Wow. It also says John Wiener.
It also
and
says
everybody
170 pounds.
knows 80% of this license might not be accurate. So what? 2 weeks? You meant 3 weeks, or
How much prep time do you need for this?
okay? Prep time day of the race, or prep time? getting
prep
to the
time
race?
leading up to the race. I can get you a track coach. I can get you everything. I get Billy Gill. I mean, he's
if
a
you
track
want that
star.
much time,
Right.
if you want to give me a couple of months, then I can definitely get in there and feel good about it. If you want to give me a couple of weeks, I'm still good. Right before my 48th birthday later this month.
Okay. Let's do it on your 48th birthday.
Nah, I'm out of town that day.
Lacrosse mitzvah.
It's a flag football tournament, believe it or not.
Taylor, would you trade it all for this?
no.
No.
Now, it's not that big of an accomplishment to beat me in a race, but for me to beat him in a race.
No, but I'm surprised that you're saying that you could beat a 4.7.
You know what? Here's my secret about running a 40. I've never actually been timed because I refuse to know what it is.
Right.
And I'm like, if back in the day, I was like, man, if I don't crack 5, I'm going to be so pissed off. So I was like, I'm never going to do it. But now,
Right.
warming up, sort of running, clock in my head, I'm good. Definitely sub 5.
Delayed French Open take.
Man. So what do we have? Can we run? I don't know if you guys.
We do have
run
the sound, yes,
Do we have-
yes.
Can we run the sound of Sabalenka
yes,
saying?
we could do all the things that you're accustomed to doing here.
Let's
yes,
do
go
that.
ahead.
I would say. So basically, that's it. I was just making unforced errors. I don't know. I have to check the statistics. I think she won the match not because she played incredible, just because I made all of those mistakes from, if you look from the outside, kind of like from an easy balls.
But is it harder because it's the final of the Grand Slam? I mean, these events are so much bigger than
Yeah,
everything
that
else.
hurts. I mean, especially when you've been playing really great tennis during the whole week. You've been playing against a lot of tough opponents, Olympic champion, Iga, and then you go out and you play really bad. I don't know. I think if Iga would win me another day, I think she would go out today and she would get the win. It just, it just hurts. Honestly, it hurts. Been playing really well, and then in the last match, go out there and then perform like I did. That hurts.
Can it hurt with class? I mean,
I used to really like her. But
Yep.
I've never heard a larger self-own in my life. I
Right.
don't know how many people say this because I'm not really listening to tennis takes around. But when you, it's a missed opportunity for Coco Gauff to basically respond and say, oh, I'm sorry. Part of winning is not choking.
Yes.
So you are basically announcing to the world, hey, when stuff got tight, I choked. It's not like unforced errors.
Right.
That's like the Houston Rockets missing 27 straight threes.
Yes.
Nobody's saying the Golden State Warriors were amazing that day. They're saying, what a ridiculous choke job by the Houston Rockets, who have never seen that many missed threes. And this woman is basically saying, oh, I played horribly when it matters most. You know what she has a reputation of doing before these last couple of Grand Slam wins she had?
What?
Of playing horribly when it mattered most, of choking, of crying, of getting too emotional and not being able to control her emotions. And now she's basically telling everybody, yeah, I choked. She didn't deserve to win. If I'm Coco Gauff, I say, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Part of winning championships is not bleeping choking, so stop choking. I, Coco Gauff, saw that you were choking and just decided to just hit the ball back to you and let you hang yourself, and you did that. So keep talking. It doesn't hurt me. It hurts you. You're announcing that you choked.
The C in Coco Gauff stands for composure.
There you go. Not for choke.
Really?
The S in Sabalenka stands for sore loser.
And then to say that
He's got more.
Go! Not even like I didn't lose to you, but this other woman would have also beat you. I mean, come on, it reeks of like I don't like Coco because
Right.
she doesn't say that against other people. She's lost to because she's choked against other people too.
Right. She said I lost it. She didn't win it.
But have you ever seen that before?
No, but
Have
I
you
kind of
ever-
like the take. I mean, while understanding everything you're saying, you are fired up about this.
because again, I used to like Sabalenka. I used to
I
think,
know.
and I saw her, on the Netflix doc, and I was like, she's going to be the story of, that tennis player who sort of shook free of the demons and like finally started dominating. And then when she chokes again, she's not really honest with herself. Instead, she just takes down the winner. It's stupid.
I love when she says, if Swiatek was out here instead of me, she would have won that match against Coco Gauff.
So,
that is
translation.
taking a post-match press conference to a place I've never seen it go before.
If I would have choked against Swiatek, she wouldn't have choked against you. That's the translation of that sentence.
Swiatek is undefeated against Coco Gauff because she doesn't choke.
Great. So she knows those statistics, but she doesn't know how to finish.
Taylor, what are you cooking up over there? What is happening?
We have a fun game to play. It's Izzy or Izzyn't He?
Wow.
It's been a while, huh?
I've heard this name. I've heard this game thought of a few times, but we've never actually played it.
Right.
I'm super excited.
Do you like the name of the game?
I like it. I feel like it's, it could be more formal.
Right?
Israel or isn't real, I think is probably a
The Holy
potential
Land.
better Name.
I mean-
Yes. Gutierrez or Bad Tierrez.
I like
another
that.
one.
Yeah.
But we could stick with Izzy or isn't he? We'll think these things through.
Taylor, what do you think?
Beta test.
I spent a lot of time coming up with this name.
Right. I came up with the name. What are you talking about? It wasn't you. It was me. I've been playing this game with Israel for 10 years.
Yes, it's true. Maybe 20.
Do you want to play?
Well, I do want to play, yes.
Okay.
But it's not for me. The game's for Izzy.
Yep.
Not for me.
I have music for it, too.
Oh, let me hear it. Perfect. Put the music away for a second. Izzy was telling me during a break the random story about a below average NBA player.
Wow.
Is that well? Go ahead. Tell your story here from a lot happened at Izzy's hockky game that he went to. He
Well,
was in the
except for
fourth
scoring
row.
goals for the Panthers, that never happened.
Except for goals, yes.
So there was a moment pregame where Anthony and I were heading to our seats in our stupid jerseys, and I say that because there was no goals scored, and we were sitting there in our stupid jerseys.
Right.
But we're walking to our seats, and this is the moment, oddly enough, at an NHL game, at a playoff game, mind you, where I realized that in some level I am part of the fabric of the NBA.
Right.
All right, which
Yes.
sounds like a really uppity thing to say after only 25 years covering it. But I was walking past the gift shop.
Right.
And as I'm walking past it, I see a large human walking out of it, and I look and I'm like, "Oh wow, that's Popeye Jones."
Right.
And so immediately my mind is like, "Wow, I'm so proud of myself to immediately recognize Popeye Jones without recognizing at the moment that he's there because his son plays for the Panthers now, Seth Jones."
right.
And so
Thank you for telling me that. I was going to ask, why
You're
was
welcome.
Popeye Jones at a hockey game?
Seth
Right.
Jones, he was traded to the team mid-season. He's on the team now. Very good player.
Okay.
Defenseman.
Okay.
and
Everyone's
so-
a hockey expert.
And so Popeye's walking out. I'm walking past him. I recognize him. He looks at me. We lock eyes. And for that immediate split second, he recognized that I knew who he was. He knew who I was. And we immediately, as we locked eyes, immediately fists going up in the air, quick fist pump, keep on moving. Not a word was said, but he immediately knew who I was. I knew who he was. We knew it was cool. Boom. No need to talk. No, we didn't even talk about Seth. The Panther. Nope.
Right.
Just keep it moving. And I was like, I don't think I've ever been more proud in a single moment of crossing another professional athlete and having that moment. And I told Anthony about it.
Yes.
Wasn't impressed.
Anthony was that. Well, why would he? I mean, to be honest with you.
He's like, who the hell is Popeye Jones? What sport does he play? I was like, he's a basketball player. Look at him. He was tall as hell. He's like, yep, never heard of him. Not really impressed.
By the way, you locked Popeyes. That's what you did.
Hey-o.
Hey-o.
This is why you're here. And he's Seth Jones' what? His pop.
His pop, yes. He was a decent NBA player. He was
fine.
an average NBA player.
So
you feel like this validates your career as an NBA journalist, as an NBA columnist, that Popeye Jones recognized you at a Panthers game.
100%.
Right.
The worst player, the better.
You're right. Yes.
The worst player, the better. If I was to be recognized.
Are you confident Popeye Jones knew it was you?
100%.
Really?
100%.
Because he didn't say your name.
No. But you know when you lock eyes with somebody, it's not like, who is this guy? It's
right.
like, oh, it's that guy.
Yeah, but sometimes I lock eyes with someone and I'm like, who is that guy?
But you knew you kind of knew him, right? Even if you didn't know his first and last name,
yes,
you knew you kind of knew him. So even if Popeye Jones was like, hey, I think I might know that guy, here's a fist for you.
That's enough for you.
Yes.
Popeye Jones is one of those guys where I'm like, if I walk by him with my wife, I don't know who he is, but I'm like, that guy had to play in the NBA.
Of course. Anybody over 6'5", I think you got to say, maybe he's something.
Really? Is that
yeah, that's the rule. I was talking about that the other day. Like, if you're around 6'4", you're like, wow, that's a tall gentleman. But if you're like 6'5" or taller and any sort of semblance of decent shape, I'm like, there's something there. That guy's something.
So you felt validated.
100%. Like, not beyond validated.
Right.
Like, I felt like if and when I ever can make it into the NBA Journalism Hall of Fame wing,
right,
this will be part of my acceptance speech. Popeye Jones will make it into my acceptance speech. Do they allow acceptance speeches? I don't even know.
You will not have Popeye Jones make your acceptance speech.
100%.
It's an introduction speech is what it is. He introduces you into the Hall of Fame. Everyone makes that Hall of Fame, by the way. You should be ashamed of yourself if you don't.
Popeye Jones is up there. It's like, I was at a Panthers game for my son. I locked eyes with, what's his name? Congratulations.
Would Anthony be impressed if he made it to the Hall of Fame?
He probably had a thing. He probably wouldn't even make it.
What could you do that would impress Anthony? Anything? I mean, beat Taylor in a race?
Yes, that would be impressive.
Right.
Maybe, play lacrosse because he was a big lacrosse player and he knows I couldn't play that game. I would say ice skate or actually play ice hockey would probably be the most impressive thing I could do for him.
Okay. So he would like me, Anthony.
Well, he knows you.
But he would be impressed with me. More impressed with me than he is with you. Is that fair?
100. Well, you've got a business mind, and I do not. So he would definitely be attracted to you in that way because he's got a business mind.
All right. Kenny Albert's going to be in studio here in just a bit. Greg Cote just texted me back that he is available to talk to me and Izzy if you want to try to make that happen right now, Taylor. But I know we have a big game coming up. Gutierrez or Gutierrez?
Is that what we landed on? The formal one.
Right.
The officially formal one.
So, Taylor, how do you want – this is interesting because we're in these new studios, and so I want to play this out and take the audience through it. You're about to start this game. You're going to hit your music. You have your questions, and Greg Cote is texting that he can join us right now. So what do you want to do?
I'm going to send Greg Cote the link.
Okay.
Start the game. I'm just juggling plates right now. Juggling plates while juggling.
That's a producer. Go ahead. Start the game and text Greg Cote at the same time.
You know, I love this music. It's such a great. It's got a little 70s vibe to it. It was when I was born.
Yeah.
70s.
It's got a porn vibe.
Porn vibe,
yes,
which you know I enjoy.
Yeah.
So there.
Yep.
First question: Izzy or Izzyn't He?
Yes.
Giannis gets traded this offseason.
Ooh. I think I'm going to go with a hard Izzyn't He. I think for some reason, I feel like the Bucks are going to be so hell-bent on stripping another team's roster and getting as much back for
They'll
Giannis.
ask for too much.
Ask for too much, he ends up staying. Because, like, this whole New York Knicks situation where it's like, oh, wow, they're going to have, what would they call it, a tsunami offer, I think was the report.
Yes.
They have a tsunami, which I don't even know why you picked that natural disaster. Like, okay,
it's a weird one.
Right? A tsunami. But what is the tsunami offer if it doesn't include Jalen Brunson?
Right.
What is the tsunami offer
Karl
if
Anthony
it doesn't
Towns.
include 10 first-round picks that they don't have to trade?
Well, they gave 5 away for Mikal Bridges last year. So.
I think they have maybe 2 to trade. So it's like Karl Anthony Towns and a couple of first-rounders, and then maybe Mikal Bridges, who you equate with 5 first-rounders.
Right.
That's not the same thing. It's not a tsunami trade. So I have a weird feeling that it's just going to fall apart, and they're just going to ask for too much.
All right. Next question, Taylor.
Tyrese Halliburton, superstar?
Izzy or isn't he?
You have to ask the question. You have to ask it like that.
Well, it doesn't really work.
Is he or isn't he?
Gutierrez or Gutierrez? Doesn't
No.
work with that question,
No,
right?
it doesn't,
So
right.
it's got to be Izzy or isn't he?
Yes.
I'm sorry, but
Oh, I like this. We could change the game.
very
Except that
lot of
Israel
variety.
thing. Right, go ahead.
Isn't he? He's not a superstar.
He's a superstar.
No, I'll tell you why.
You can't have moments like this in the postseason and not be.
Well, he has superstar moments, but you know who else has superstar moments in the postseason? Reggie Miller.
Right.
Right? And was
Yeah.
Reggie Miller while he was playing a super duper star? No, I think he got like the superstar on him sort of grew after he retired
Sure.
because of those moments. And if you can't carry your team at any given time, like Tyrese is a natural point guard. The reason he is so successful, or part of the reason he can be especially successful, is because he gets other guys going and he gets that pace going. If you can't do that unless other guys are hitting, you're not a superstar. Like, you are a great complementary player. You are a star of stars, but he needs a superstar next to him because he can't take over the game at all times. So I'm very specific about what I call a superstar, and I don't think he's that.
All right. It's your game. I mean,
It is my game.
Yes, go ahead, Taylor.
When you think bald, you think Scott Van Pelt. Is he or isn't he?
So, Izzy, okay? He gave me a list of top 5 ball. He said Scott Van Pelt
Who,
is the
Taylor?
person you think of. Yeah, yesterday.
Okay.
He gave me a list of top 5 ball people.
Oof.
It did not include Kojak. It did not include Yul Brenner.
I love you, baby.
I know. It did not include Rocco Baldelli. I mean,
Besides Rocco Baldelli,
Right.
I was too afraid yesterday to admit I didn't know who any of those people were.
I'm guessing MJ was on the list, right?
Number one.
MJ was number 1,
All
but
right.
he is
Alex
saying.
Caruso, clearly on the list, right?
I mean, Caruso probably. Oh, well,
Okay.
he's annoying, by the way.
Is he?
Oh,
Yes,
he's just
as
one
a
of the-
basketball player.
Caruso is a guy you see on the court, off the court. He's got the headband on. You just want to punch him in the face. I mean, that's all you want to do with Caruso.
Not to spoil the list, but Alex Caruso is having a moment. Is he or isn't he?
Oh,
he didn't answer the first question about Van Pelt yet.
is he the? What was the question? Is he the first person, or is he like represent bald people?
Does he represent bald?
Yeah.
Isn't he?
Right. It's always
No.
Jordan. Yes.
I do
Always.
not think of Scott Van Pelt like top. I would definitely think of Telly Savalas, a.k.a. Kojak, before I think of Scott Van
Right.
Pelt.
It's Jordan and Kojak. That's it. Next.
The Knicks should have been content with finally not being the joke franchise.
Oh, is he? Is he? Like, there's only one champion every year. You saw, like, they went from hateable to lovable, except for the part where they threw the trash on the Pacers fan. That wasn't really lovable.
Right.
But, like, taking over the streets, like, as much as people want to mock them for it was just a second round win, that's still fun as shit. Like, people want to celebrate, like, especially in the streets. So this is why I say that they ruined it by firing Tom Thibodeau, because you immediately go from placing, or from all this joy to placing blame and getting rid of somebody. And it's just like, all right, come on. Tom was a big part of that.
Right. I am smiling right now because Greg Cote is in the Zoom, but we have more questions. Hold on. One or
right.
two more questions.
All right.
Kenny Albert going to be in studio soon. Go ahead, Taylor.
We have one more. If you have 2 Jalen Williams, you have no Jalen Williams.
What kind of question is that? I like it.
That's a Gutierrez, because that's a good line. Jalen Williams, man, I just gonna say it, like, I don't think he'll ever make another All-Star game. I think he's a nice player. I think he got elevated by being next to SGA. But yeah, if you got 2 Jalen Williams, you don't have one. I love that.
All right, Greg Cote of the Miami Herald is with us in the Zoom here. No one, and I mean no one, covers hockey the way this man does. Izzy, why don't you set this up? Because I know you have a joke, but Greg was asked to go on a podcast. Why don't you set the whole thing up?
Yeah.
Because I am not familiar with what's going on, unfortunately, with Greg Cote at the moment.
Hey, Greg, how are you?
I'm good, Izzy. How you doing?
I'm doing great, and I've been sort of silently stewing, even though your boy White Hat is in our hockey group chat. I haven't really participated in any sort of Pete Blackburn hatred or hate, but I will now. Because it really bothered me, Greg, that he called you a senile old man. And as, you know, somebody who has respected you your entire career, I thought it was entirely disrespectful. And I thought you having him on the pod was great, and your drunk trailer was even better.
That was brilliant. Yeah, Yeti did that. That was terrific. You know, I was insulted because, you know, I'm used to being made fun of and say what a terrible column and all this stuff, but I don't think I've ever been called senile before in a way that sounded serious. And so I had to, and he didn't have the courtesy to have me on his podcast to defend myself. So I had to have him on my podcast, and stupidly, he agreed. And it was fun. We had a good time.
You ready for the joke that I was going to feed you? If I would have been a producer for your
So,
podcast?
so this is the joke, Greg, that if Izzy was in your ear while you were doing this, this is the joke he would have fed you.
You ready? So you know his name.
Okay.
Do you know White Hat's name, or should I just tell you what his name is?
I think it's Pete Blackburn.
Ah, good. I'm glad you got it and you didn't say Cockburn. Yeah, it is Pete Blackburn. And so I would have been in your ear, and I would have said, hey, Greg, how am I going to listen to a guy named Pete Blackburn? His name literally means racist joke. Come on, Greg.
Wow.
Come on, Greg. And wait. And you could actually go on
If
top of
he's
that.
not laughing, it's not funny. I mean,
And maybe that's why he's always wearing the white hats.
Oh, you know what? I didn't look at it that I didn't do the etymology on his name to that degree. Thank you for that intel.
You're welcome.
I appreciate
You should
it.
ask him that. Say, hey, why do you always wear white hats in particular, Blackburn?
I should. Yeah.
Wait, so
Next
Greg-
time, he and I are close friends now.
No, you're
so
not.
next time we chat, I'm
Yes.
gonna bring that up.
wait, so Blackburn refused to have you on the podcast because of your take about Connor McDavid?
Well, apparently his producer wanted me on because the
Right.
producer was very complimentary to me, and the producer was like, "I like there's old classic columnists like that still writing stuff like that," and White Hat was just like, "I would rather put needles in my ears than have this guy on a senile old man." So yeah, and he's just a kid, I don't know who he is or how he got a microphone, but
I don't know how he
it's
got
fine.
into the group
It's
chat,
a
to
free
be honest.
country still.
Greg, let me ask you a question because I'm a little tired of the Connor McDavid takes like he is, as he says, McJesus, or as they labeled him. Isn't he just a very talented player? Like we've seen this in other sports. Is he not just, let's say, a Kevin Durant or even a Tracy McGrady, right? This athletic, gifted player who like, wow, he's amazing. Look what he can do. But given the keys to a franchise, really hadn't done shit.
Yeah, you could say that. I'm certainly one who doesn't buy the whole McJesus, next Gretzky, greatest thing since whatever argument. I do think he's a LeBron James type player for his sport in his generation. I think he's a great player. But, my whole argument is there's 5 guys on a basketball floor. There's 5 skaters on the ice. One basketball player can be generational and lift his team. The Michael Jordans, LeBron. A hockey player should be that too. In the same city, Edmonton, Wayne Gretzky won like 5 Stanley Cups. I think Connor McDavid's a great, great player. My whole argument with the McOverrated thing is that he's not great enough to put on that upper tier of goats until he wins a Stanley Cup. And will he win one this time? Looked like it after game 1. Doesn't look so much after game 3.
Greg, I could make the
Not that I'm
argument
gloating.
that Connor McDavid is not a top 5 Edmonton Oiler of all time until he wins a Stanley Cup. How about that? Huh?
Well, certainly you'd still put Gretzky ahead of him.
I put
Or I
Gretzky,
would
I put
anyway.
Messier,
In
I
this
put Yari
series-
Curry, I would put Grant Fuhr, I put Paul Coffey. All 5 of them.
Wow.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm taking your
if
take
you're
and
going-
expanding it. Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
You're welcome.
Greg,
Go-
how did you
go ahead.
How
Thank
did you
you.
experience the third period last night? Because one of my favorite things is like a high pressure, tense hockey game that ends up being in my favor
Right.
in the third period. I got so much done during that third period last night. It was
Yes.
amazing.
But Greg always views this through a columnist prism, right? And so
that's why I'm asking.
he
Like,
was
you
home.
must have loved it.
I'm guessing Greg was sleeping before the game was over. I mean,
Well, I was in a loud arena, so the crowd kept waking me up. But no, it was the third period turned it into a terrible game in terms of the lopsidedness, but also an interesting game in terms of all the fighting. It was just glorious. There was I don't know how much 5-on-5 hockey there was last night, but it wasn't much. There were like 17 penalties. Everybody was in the box. They were having a party in the penalty box. It was so crowded in there. There were balloons. It was nuts. But that was desperation on Edmonton's part. Even the coach said after the game, we would not have acted like that if it was a 1-goal game. Okay, the game got out of hand. Edmonton knew it. They were being embarrassed, not just beaten, but embarrassed. The whole tenor of the series shifted last night, I thought. And I think if you're Connor McDavid, you'd never admit it right now, but you sort of felt your Stanley Cup shot slipping away from you a little bit last night.
Is Greg Cote saying this Stanley Cup is over?
He's as close to saying it as he can be 3 games into what will probably still be a 7-game series.
You see Stugotz Blackburn racist joke?
Yeah, I got the joke,
okay,
all right, but he didn't laugh. So, yes, but Game 7 in Edmonton, by the way, Greg.
Give a few Miller Lights, he might laugh.
Oh, I know.
Yes.
I know. And so was last year. Yeah. And how'd that turn out?
Do you find it funny that Sunrise, Florida is the hockey capital of the world?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Sunrise, Florida. Prior to the Florida Panthers, Sunrise, Florida was most renowned for a shopping mall.
Right.
Called the Sawgrass Mills Mall, a local landmark. And now it's a hockey town. The Panthers are trying to shift their focus to Fort Lauderdale. They celebrated the Cup on the beach last year. They have a new training facility in Fort Lauderdale. So, they're trying to get away from Sunrise a little bit, I think.
They're embarrassed about Sunrise, aren't they? I mean,
that Iceplex is impressive.
You said that, not me.
They got a restaurant in there, the Federal. It's a nice little place.
Listen, I'm going to ask Kenny Albert this. Like the first time he came to Sunrise, he imagined it as some sort of tropical paradise.
No, it sounds
And then you get here, Greg, and you realize it's a mall, 4 car dealerships, and a quarterdeck, and that's about it,
Yeah, you're right. I hate to disparage Sunrise.
I know.
It's close to me. I love the arena because I'm there in 10 minutes. So Sunrise is wonderful.
The Greg Cote Show with Greg Cote. Greg, I have some topics here. Now, you send your topics out when you go in to do the show with Dan. I don't know if Dan gets to all the topics or not. So I am going to ask you.
I don't know if he reads all of them.
He definitely does not read them. I can assure you of that, okay? So I am just going to go rat-a-tat-tat. I'm going to go through your topics here. Rodgers decides sad end to career will be in Pittsburgh. Please elaborate.
Well, he didn't have many. He didn't have much choice, and the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't have much choice because Aaron Rodgers just sort of stalled and paused for 2 months while everybody else was signing. The Steelers were down to Mason Rudolph, which is a pretty decent backup, but not a starter. Aaron Rodgers had no other choices. Nobody wanted him at his age and with his reputation now for being sort of an off-field issue. And so it was a marriage made in hell. Nobody wanted each other really, but this was the only choice they had left on both sides.
Somebody stop Scotty Scheffler.
Yes, as the U.S. Open, I love a dynasty as much as anybody, but when one guy begins dominating golf, I liked it with Tiger Woods. I don't so much like it with Scheffler. I'm not sure why. With Tiger Woods, it felt like a story bigger than golf.
Right.
It felt like a guy, breaking down the color line in a sport as white as the dimpled ball. Mm-hmm. But with Scheffler, I don't find it interesting. I want somebody new. I was rooting for Rory to win the big one he just won, because I just think Scheffler's dominance is a little bit meh, a little bit yawning.
I like to play with a red golf ball.
Right. The big one he just won was Augusta. I mean,
yeah, the Masters.
Right.
Yeah, I don't like saying the word Masters.
I hear you.
But
I understand
that kind of thing.
Belichick's UNC buyout went from $10 million to $1 million on June 1st.
Yeah, that was not widely reported. I didn't think, but the big question now: what will Jordan Hudson do? Because obviously she's steering the ship. Bill Belichick, who's been in control his entire career, I don't think is in control anymore. I think she's running him. I think she's running Bill Belichick Incorporated. And I think if she wants out of North Carolina, it'll happen.
All right. Anything
How
else?
about that?
I love it. Listen, I'm allowing you to get all your takes out because I know he's not. And so
No, he isn't. You're right. I don't know why I do those show topics because he never goes to them.
right.
Not that I'm complaining.
I'm the only one who responds to those, Greg. I'm the only one who loves you, really. And listen, and I say that like I'm the only one who loves you on that show, and your son works on it. All right.
That's true. What an asshole that
Yes,
guy is.
you got that right. Well, I love you too, Stugotz.
All right,
I wish you were sitting in the same seat more often than you are, but life happens.
I appreciate it. I'll be there on Monday. I think I'm in with you one day next week, so I'm looking forward to that, buddy.
Greg, is it a good arm week or a bad arm week, Greg?
Yeah.
It's a bad arm life. I'm looking at my arms right now. I don't know you. I'm saying to my arms, I don't know you. You know, I'm wearing
they
long
saying
sleeve
back?
shirts when I take a shower. That's how bad my arms are.
Check out his podcast, The Greg Cote Show with Greg Cote. Kenny Albert's in the lobby waiting for us. Greg, we have to go. We love you. We'll talk to you soon. Very excited for our next guest in studio. This is how long I have known Kenny Albert. He sent me a text yesterday before Game 3, Stanley Cup Finals. He's in town calling the Stanley Cup for Turner Sports. He sent me a text yesterday saying he has a picture of him and my brother from his bar mitzvah back in 1981.
True story.
How are you, Kenny?
I'm great. Great to be here.
Thank you for being here. Did you find the picture?
As soon as I get home from the Stanley Cup final, I had my wife on a goose hunt for it.
Right.
And I was trying to explain where this album is, so I promise I'll get it to you pretty soon.
Okay. People are wondering how you and I know each other. Now, I don't know if you can call someone a friend. I grew up with Kenny, but I haven't seen Kenny in 44 years or so?
Yeah, at least, right?
Yes. You're my best friend, Kenny.
Well, I remember going to your house all the time. Your brother Eric was one of my closest friends in elementary school.
Yes.
On Long Island in Port Washington, and spent many, many days at your house, and you were like 5, 6 years old running around, playing sports and riding your bike, and we haven't seen each other since.
No, we haven't. But if I told you then that I would be doing this now, you would have said what?
I probably would have said 2025. I mean, that's,
What is that?
45 years away.
You were telling me a great story. You're a little bit tired today, understandably so. You called 3 overtimes the other night. You called last night's game. But you got back to the hotel, and I am fascinated by this. You went to sleep a little bit later than expected because Wayne Gretzky was holding court in the lobby of the hotel. Oh, I wish I could have been there.
Well, not only Wayne, but some of the others from our crew, Brian Boucher and Anson Carter.
Right.
It's great when the pregame show travels, and that takes place in the playoffs and during some of the other special events like the Winter Classic in Chicago.
Sure.
Normally they're in Atlanta. And in the conference final 3 years ago, and then in the Stanley Cup final, Panthers in Vegas 2 years ago, and again this year they're on the road. So to have the opportunity to spend the time around those guys and Paul Bissonnette and Liam McHugh, they do such a great job on the air. And Wayne Gretzky, who you mentioned, as great of a player as he was, and he's the greatest of all time,
Sure.
he's an even nicer person.
Right.
If you could see just how he treats anybody that comes up to him for a picture, an autograph, a conversation, and he loves telling stories. So yesterday at lunch, we get back from the Panthers morning skate, and Brian Boucher and Darren Pang and I and Eddie Olczyk, we go into the hotel restaurant. There's Wayne with a friend of his, and we sit down, and now everybody's telling stories for an hour, and most of them are from Wayne. And then at night, we get back from the game. We're all in the hotel lobby, and Wayne's telling great stories. So it's just incredible to be able to spend time around those guys, and especially during the series. You're talking about the games,
Sure.
talking about the series, what's taking place on the ice, and then looking forward to the next game.
Any stories that Gretzky told that you could share with the audience or no?
Well, there was a little trivia going on last night. We were talking about teams.
Trivia with a great one.
And he remembers everything.
You wish you were there so
I just
bad.
want to hang out with Kenny. I mean, Jesus.
He remembers everything. Maybe not every goal he scored, but
Right.
a lot of them.
Yes.
And, sometimes people fact check, and he's right on with every story that he tells. The
Right.
memories, who had the assist on this goal, and where this game was played, and who were his line mates. So last night, a bunch of us were discussing teams that have gotten to multiple
Sure.
Stanley Cup finals like the Panthers and Oilers have.
Right. God, Gretzky. telling stories, hotel lobby, lunch with Gretzky. Who is better than you, Kenny Albert?
It's fun. It's,
Right.
we all have to pinch ourselves sometimes, but he is really one of the nicest people you'll ever meet.
Going back to your bar mitzvah for a second, do you remember any of your Haftorah portion?
I know I had a cassette tape somewhere, but
Did you really?
They taped it back then.
Yes.
There was no video.
Right.
But I probably remember a lot of names and numbers and
Right.
useless information,
Yes.
but I probably have to go back into the archives and find that tape.
I did mine with Kyle Weissman. I could not get through the Haftorah portion. He had to do it for me.
Well, I was a little nervous because the young man who I shared mine with, his mom was one of the Hebrew school teachers. So there was a lot of pressure.
Oh, yes.
A lot of pressure.
And you felt it?
I felt it for sure.
Did you really?
Mrs. Hoffman, Bobby Hoffman.
I remember Mrs. Hoffman, one of the greats.
There you go.
Who was the most famous person at Kenny Albert's bar mitzvah? Because your dad was like, this is prime Marv Albert, right?
I remember looking out and seeing Chuck Scarborough. Remember
What?
Chuck Scarborough?
Of course.
from NBC
Local news
News?
anchor,
Right,
yes.
they worked together.
Right.
And he was about 6'4". Right. And I was up there and looked out, and Chuck certainly stood out in the crowd.
That's the guy. That's the most famous guy?
You know, there were some others. Cal Ramsey, who was the
Right.
Knicks color analyst
Yes.
for a long time.
He was great.
Some of
Yeah.
the other TV and radio folks.
Yep.
But I remember looking out and seeing Chuck Scarborough's face.
That's the guy you remember. Right,
That's the
because he meant something to you growing up. He meant something to all of us in New York
Exactly.
growing up.
Just
Yes.
retired. He was working until
He
last year.
just retired?
Just retired.
Jesus. That's a great run
Tremendous run.
for a local news anchor. The first time he came to Sunrise, Kenny, the first time you ever visited Sunrise, Florida, did you think you were coming to some sort of tropical paradise?
Well, initially the Panthers played at Miami Arena, so I remember calling many games
Yes,
there.
yes.
And then when they moved to Sunrise in the early 2000s, it was a beautiful arena, but a lot of, not that many people showed up. The
Right.
Panthers weren't very good at the time, but
Yeah.
to see what it's developed into, and I remember we used to stay once in a while out by the mall, by the Sawgrass Mall, but a lot of the teams back then stayed at the Marriott Harbor Beach, which is a terrific hotel, pool, beach right there.
Right.
So a lot of memories of commuting from Fort Lauderdale
Wait.
to Sunrise, and
Okay.
oftentimes it would take about 45 minutes to an hour prior to the games.
So this
due to
is
the
great.
traffic.
So you stayed in Sunrise. You realized it was a mall, 4 car dealerships, and a quarterdeck restaurant. And you decided, hey, I'm going to Fort Lauderdale
Well,
on the beach.
I wasn't
because
the
I know
one-
you're staying on the beach now.
I wasn't the one making those decisions.
Right, but, you had some influence, Kenny. Let's be honest.
But some of the teams,
Right.
if they're here for a couple of days, they'll stay by the beach, and then once in a while they'll get day rooms in Sunrise because they'll have their morning skate. So instead of commuting back and forth, they'll actually get another hotel.
Right.
On occasion.
But Sunrise surprised you in that it was very far from the beach and there was nothing to do there, right? I mean,
We would only really be there for the practices and the games. We did stay there earlier in the playoffs for one of the games. So
right.
I was amazed at the mall. Everybody's walking around with a suitcase.
Of course, yes.
Everybody has a suitcase.
Right.
I guess they come off the
Yes.
cruise ships and fly in from elsewhere, and
Yes.
they bring their suitcase to the mall. That was pretty shocking.
People don't realize this, Kenny, but you're a badass. You're the only person calling all 4 of the major sports. You called 4 sports in 4 days once. You have called so many games, so many big games, and I'm wondering, what are you proudest of on your resume?
That's a great question. I really enjoy the variety, and I've been lucky enough to be involved in all 4 sports. NFL for 31 years now on Fox, and the NHL for over 30 years. Major League Baseball on Fox. I don't do as many games as I used to, but still between 5 and 10 every year. And then
Right.
I've had the great opportunity to do about 15 Knicks games a year with Walt Clyde Frazier on MSG. What am I most proud of? It's funny. I think back to the 2 years, believe it or not, that I spent in the minor leagues with the Baltimore Skipjacks. My first 2 years out of college, and
Right.
I won't trade those years in for anything. I was talking about it with Anson Carter last night because he
Interesting.
played in the American Hockey League, and
Right.
6, 8, 10-hour bus rides. But the memories from those days, learning, getting the reps, I definitely wouldn't. I probably remember more from those years than a lot of the other years. But after that, many of us were in the right place at the right time, and so lucky when Rupert Murdoch made a crazy bid to acquire the NFC package from CBS.
Right.
And there were 4 really young play-by-play announcers at the time, and I was one of them, along with Joe Buck, Kevin Harlan, and Tom Brenneman, that were all hired by Fox in 1994. And here we all are 30-plus years later, still doing our thing. So I think back to those days a lot. Now calling a third Stanley Cup final on the TV side, also worked 8 on the radio side.
But that's an interesting choice going back to the beginning. Is there some, like, what was it about the beginning? Was it validation? Like, I've made it, I'm here, I'm doing this thing that I love?
You didn't know if you made it yet at that point.
Yeah.
When I was
but you're closer, it's a step.
Living in Baltimore,
Right.
but it was a great first step.
Yeah.
And to work 80 games a year, often by myself, getting the reps, working in the team office, doing pretty much everything they needed, go pick up a player at the airport, had to do some sales and marketing. So those are 2 years that really stand out in my mind.
You were doing sales and marketing as a play-by-play
I
guy?
hated sales.
Right.
I think I made 3 sales the whole summer, a
Right.
sports bar, a gym at a hotel, and a batting cage miniature golf place.
But there was something powerful about the voice of a team walking in and closing a deal.
At that level, at the minor
right.
league, we had to do everything. And I remember the 3 deals I made were $500.
Right.
And we gave them everything. We gave them season tickets. We gave them commercials.
Take all my inventory.
We gave them commercials on the radio, whatever they wanted.
How many games? Do you know the exact number of games you've called?
Not an exact, but I have an approximate number. We actually mentioned on the air last night, there's a site on social media called Unnecessary Sports Research.
Right.
It's a gentleman named Tony Miller. He's an SID at a college in the Midwest.
Right.
He has an incredible database that he's built up over the last 10 or so years, and he puts out charts and tweets and Instagram posts. He keeps track of national broadcasts. It would be impossible to keep track of the local broadcasts that everybody does.
Sure.
But there's a list of the national broadcasts, and I know my number's close to 1,500, and that's
Jesus.
That's NFL, NHL, and baseball national broadcasts. I know I've worked over 2,000 local hockey games as well. So if you throw in Olympics, I've worked 9 Olympics, hockey at the Winter Olympics 6 times, and then volleyball, water polo, all kinds of different sports, track and field. I'm probably close to 4,000 if you include everything.
What?
In 35 years.
Right.
So
these are great lengths to go to avoid being with the family, Kenny. I gotta be honest.
Exactly. No, my wife couldn't be better about
I know,
it.
I'm teasing you.
No, she's understood the schedule for a long time.
Right.
We joke we've been married almost 29 years, but I've been there for 16 of them.
Right. Did your kids ever did your kids ever realize, oh, Dad's a star, this could work in my favor? Like, my kids had a moment where, like, the boys really liked Dad, and they started using me to their advantage. Did you have moments like that?
They still don't think I'm funny. They don't laugh at any of my jokes.
When did they start tuning you out?
That's a good question. But, no, they've been great about the schedule. When they were younger, I was away a lot on weekends and a lot at night. But I tried to take advantage during the day. I would drive to school, go to events during the week.
Of course, yeah.
A lot of, you're probably the same way. A lot of my friends who had 9-to-5 jobs were gone all week and would get home at 7 or 8 o'clock at night. Mm-hmm. So, we tried to look at it as a positive, sort of the reverse schedule that I had, because I grew up in a similar situation, and I thought it was great. I would get to go to games and tag along and go on road trips and go to Eric Weiner's house. So it was a great childhood.
We used to play the Olympics in the basement. You remember that?
We did.
Yep, we did. Yeah. I won the high jump, Taylor. What are you laughing at?
And then over at my house, we had the ping pong table.
Yeah, we had the ping pong table.
We had various events at different locales.
Eric Weiner was the Andre Agassi of ping pong, was he not? Like, he was that good. My brother used topspin.
The picture that I will find for you,
right?
He's playing ping pong in the photo.
That's all he did. That and listen to Grateful Dead music. You're familiar? What's it like calling a 3 overtime game?
So the longest one was 4 overtimes that I called. That was Florida Panthers, Carolina Hurricanes 2 years ago. It's one of those things where when it keeps going, you want to be involved. You want to set a record, right?
Yeah.
So the game we had in Raleigh 2 years ago, Matthew Tkachuk ended it in the final minute of the 4th overtime. Mm-hmm. That was the 6th longest game of all time, and it ended at like 1:52 in the morning. And I felt great. The adrenaline carries you through.
Right.
And you want to be sharp. You don't want to have a missed call on the goal when the game finally ends. I remember waking up the next day exhausted. I felt like I was run over by a truck the next morning.
Yeah.
Because you're not necessarily standing the whole game, but you're kind of up out of your seat, for a lot of it, 6 hours. The other night it was a 2 overtime game, and the game started at 6 Edmonton time, so it wasn't that late. It ended about 10 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Once called a 20-inning game.
Wow.
Mets Cardinals.
Wow.
April 2010. Never left the booth to go to the men's room.
Really?
I was working with the great Tim McCarver.
Kenny.
And see, here's the thing. There was a men's room close.
Yes.
I could have gone if I needed to.
Right.
But in baseball, so in hockey, you have the intermissions, football, halftime, basketball, halftime.
Yeah.
So we, as play-by-play and color analysts, we're programmed to not have to go while the game's going on because you can't. You can't leave the booth.
Sure.
So baseball, though, there's only a minute and a half to 2 minutes between innings. So you really can't go unless it's really close.
Right.
I never had the urge. Wasn't drinking that much during the game.
Really? Yeah.
And you never think it's going to go that long, right?
Right.
When it goes to the 10th inning, okay, it'll end pretty soon. This one went 20, so that might be one of my claims to fame. Never left the booth.
What was the total?
Nearly 7 hours.
I was going to ask, what's the total time of the game? So 7 hours without urinating.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
Really?
Tim McCarver went once or twice, but I never left.
Right.
Never went.
Was anyone you worked with in baseball have to go to the bathroom and was late getting back to the booth?
Sometimes they'll run out between innings.
Right.
But if it's the analyst, no one knows they're missing. If
You got to fill, Kenny.
If the first couple of pitches are thrown, nobody realizes they're not there.
There's not a part of you, like in the third overtime, maybe towards the end of the second overtime, where maybe during a break you're saying to Eddie, hey, listen, will someone fucking score a goal already? I want to get out of here.
It's funny you mentioned Eddie.
Because I know Eddie wants to get home.
During that 4 overtime game, I kept giving the note, the stats. Well, it's now the 15th longest game in NHL history. It's now the 12th longest. It's now the 8th longest. Right. And he's giving me these looks, and he still brings it up. He's like, I wanted to get out of there that night. So can you stop? Can you stop jinxing it?
Yes. You had a nice one last night. You got home early last night, but Gretzky kept you up till 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I won't blame it on him. We all wanted to stay and listen to the stories, but by the way, those lists that I mentioned that are kept, Eddie Olczyk's 1,000th national broadcast last night. So, and he's probably done over 2,000 local, but he hit the 1,000 mark.
You have a book out. It's been out for a couple of years. A Mic for All Seasons. Father's Day is right around the corner. Talk about the book for a sec.
So it was a lot of fun. I know you've done books. I see.
Yes. Stugotz's personal record book. Right, yes. Yeah.
I always thought about it. I felt like I had a lot of stories.
Sure.
Every summer I'm invited to 3 or 4 sportscasting camps in the New York, New Jersey area.
Very cool.
And speak to hundreds of students every year, high school, college, that want to get into broadcasting. And I always find myself telling the same stories because it's different kids every year. And they all ask great questions. So I thought for a while, why don't I put the stories, pen to paper? It could also be somewhat of a handbook, a textbook, for those students that want to get into this business. Mm-hmm. So it really took until COVID, until the pandemic, to really have the time. I was home for 146 straight days. Right. I counted.
Yep.
And my wife and kids started making fun of me when I would announce, okay, tonight's consecutive dinner number 37. And because I'm never home 3 nights in a row.
Right.
Let alone a week.
You made up for all of it,
so
right
we made
there.
Up. It was, we made up for a lot of it as far as spending the time together. Mm-hmm. So I had been contacted by a book agent a couple of years earlier, a gentleman named Andrew Blounder in New York, big sports fan. We had some mutual connections. And he said, hey, if you're ever thinking about writing a book, let me know. Maybe I can hook you up with a publisher.
Sure.
So Triumph Books out of Chicago signed on. They were great. I put together an outline. And the thing I'm most proud of, actually, is that I wrote it myself.
Wow.
I had a lot of help. My wife and daughters.
I wish I could say the same. I mean,
my wife and kids helped with the editing and a lot of ideas, but I actually wrote it myself, organized it. I'll give you my 2 favorite stories if we have time.
Yeah, we have plenty of time. Yes. All I have is time.
When I was in Baltimore, working minor league hockey.
You're Wayne Gretzky right now. Just go. Yes.
My roommate, and Wayne Gretzky and Clyde Frazier wrote my forwards.
Really?
To the book.
Not bad.
They wrote the 2.
I mean, I had Levitard, so you win.
There you go. So I'm in Baltimore.
Right.
My roommate, because they wanted to save money at the minor league level, so they stick the radio guy with the assistant coach.
Sure.
Barry Trotz, who's gone on to have an unbelievable career in the NHL, won a Stanley Cup with Washington. So we're rooming together for 2 years on the road. So I would interview either Barry or the head coach, Rob Laird, before every game on a cassette recorder for a pregame interview. So we're on the road somewhere, and I interview Barry, and he said something that came out funny, whatever it was. I didn't use it on the air, but I made the mistake of playing it for a couple of the players on the bus after the game.
Right.
Word got back to Trotzy. He said, I'm going to get you back one day. A lot of practical jokes take place at that level. So later in the season, this is February either 91 or 92. I know I get the year right in the book.
Right.
And the only time we flew all year was to the Maritime provinces in Canada. We would go up and play 6 or 8 games in Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, New Brunswick. So we would fly up, bus within those cities, and then fly home. So we're flying out of Baltimore. We take 3 flights, small regional jets. It's basically only us, only the hockey team, 25 people in the traveling party. Baltimore to Boston, Boston to Halifax, Halifax to Sydney, Nova Scotia. So we land in Sydney about 4 in the afternoon, and we go down the steps right onto the tarmac off this small plane. The airport's probably the size of this studio.
Right.
The smallest airport I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
So
but biggest studio I've ever seen. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Small
Right.
airport, big
Yes.
studio.
Yes.
So we had been told that our luggage probably wouldn't make it until the next day because all the hockey equipment took the entire luggage compartment below the plane. Mm-hmm. So we get off, and I'm one of the first ones off, and there's a gentleman at the bottom of the steps with a clipboard, and he points to my name. He says, "Is this you?" "Yes, you have to come with me." I thought he wanted me to identify what all the luggage would look like when it came in the next day.
Right.
They start asking me all kinds of questions. Is your passport valid? Have you ever been arrested? Do you know anybody that's in trouble? Then they put me in a car, like an unmarked police car with computers up front.
Right.
2 older gentlemen, and they start driving away from the airport. Mm-hmm. And they're continuing with the questions. Do you have anything illegal in your luggage? 20 questions. And I knew I didn't do anything wrong,
Right.
but I couldn't figure out what was going on. Finally, they pulled up to the hotel, and they said, "We have one more question. Do you know Jim Weissman?" Jim was the head of security for the Washington Capitals.
Right.
He set the whole thing up. His brother was the police chief up there. But Barry Trotz waited 4 months to get me back. And I was the victim that year, but every year they would get somebody, a player, a trainer, who was new to the team.
Right.
So that's the first story.
That's classic Trotz right there.
The second one, you remember the Aaron Boone game, 2003?
Of course,
Game
yes.
7.
You're sitting right next to a Yankee fan. by
Game
the way.
7,
Yes.
Yankees,
Yes.
Red Sox.
Yes.
I'm the sideline reporter for Fox, Joe
Right.
Buck and Tim McCarver.
I remember.
And
Yeah.
actually, Brett Boone was with them in the booth during
Yes.
that game.
Yeah.
So I worked all 4 games at Yankee Stadium. It just happened to coincide. Football was on the weekend when they played in Boston, so I had a football assignment. They had me do the sideline for the 4 games at Yankee Stadium, and then I had to host the clubhouse celebration in the locker room, which I had never done before, but I had watched so many times. So I'm up on the podium with Mrs. Autry,
Right.
Gene Autry's
Sure.
wife, and she's giving out the trophy, and it's Joe Torre and Mariano Rivera. I'm interviewing all the Yankees, and they received the trophy. So remember, the game was extra innings.
Yep.
And Yankee-Red Sox games went long. Mm-hmm. So now it's closing in on 1 a.m. So I finished the ceremony, thank everybody in the clubhouse, getting soaked in the old Yankee Stadium. I throw it back up to the booth to Joe and Tim, and they then throw it to the late local news. So we're off the air. But out of the corner of my eye, I see Mayor Bloomberg at the time,
Right.
the New York mayor, standing off to the side. Looks like he wants to be interviewed on television.
Right.
So he had a young PR person with him, a gentleman probably in his late 20s, who comes over to me and whispers, "Could you have the mayor on next?"
Right.
And I said, "We're off the air." He said, "Can you fake it?" Yeah. So he didn't want to lose his job. So I told the camera person, I said, "Can you make it look like you're rolling on this?"
Right.
And I said to the mayor, I didn't want him to think it was live. I said, "They're taping this," which
Yes.
they weren't.
Right.
And we did a 5-minute fake interview with Mayor Bloomberg.
I'm so proud of you, Kenny.
So
That's how you do it.
Those are 2 of the, but the book is
Did anyone ask for an air check like afterwards? Because that would have been problematic.
Not that I know of. Not that I know of. But it's a compilation of stories about my early life. I was actually born 3 months premature. I spent the first 2.5 months in an incubator. I was 1 pound, 15 ounces when I was born. So I tell that story. I wrote about, if not for the New York Mets, I wouldn't be here. My
Right.
parents actually met, and you remember them from back in the day.
Of course.
They met at Shea Stadium in
Really?
1964.
I did not know that.
My father was 22 years old, hosting a pre- and post-game show.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was an usherette. They would show people to their seats,
Oh, right.
hostesses
Okay.
at the
Yeah.
stadium.
Yes.
So they actually met. He interviewed her on the pregame show.
So great.
At the second night game ever at Shea Stadium.
Wow.
So I wouldn't be here if not for the Mets, so I tell that story. And then just, stories about your high school as well.
Yes.
Schreiber High School,
Schreiber High
Port
School.
Washington.
Yes.
I covered sports for the Schreiber Times, for the Port Washington News, the local newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
But in 10th grade, I don't know if you know this story, 10th grade, I was at the gym to cover a girls' basketball game. and Tom Romeo, who was the athletic director,
I remember him.
tells me that a local cable station, Cox Cable from Great Neck, a neighboring town,
Yes.
was coming to film the girls' basketball game.
Right.
And he said, they don't have any announcers. Do you want to volunteer? So they clipped a microphone onto my shirt. I announced the game. I sat a couple of rows behind the team bench. And after the game, I met Roy Menton, who was the producer, and he said, call me tomorrow. So he winds up hiring me. I mean, it wasn't a paid job, but it was great experience.
Right.
It was unbelievable.
Of course.
So for my 3 years in high school, with 2.5 remaining years, I worked about 50 to 75 high school and college games around Long Island on Cox Cable. And I would bring friends along as color commentators. I don't know if you remember Adam Holzer.
I do. Of course
So
I do.
he's still a good-
I dated his sister.
Did you?
Lara.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah. So who lives, we were just talking about Northvale. She lives
Yes.
up in that area.
Yes.
So I'm still close friends with Lara.
Okay.
With Adam.
Tell her I said hello.
I've seen Lara through the years.
Right.
So I was texting. I told them I was coming on the show this morning.
good. Oh,
so,
my God, I love this.
So I would bring Adam and Tom Gallitti, who writes for NHL.com. I
Right.
went to high school with.
Yep.
He was one of the other guys I would bring along. Dalton Einhorn, Scott Marcel. I don't know if you remember these names.
I don't remember, but I love that you could choose a friend just to call the game
Yeah, I
with you.
would
That's
bring
awesome.
Jim Anderson
Right.
was 2 years older than me. He had a great voice. He
Right.
works in radio in Chicago. So I would bring friends along, but unbelievable experience.
Yes.
For 3 years, because at that time, kids my age that wanted to do it, there were no opportunities until college.
Right.
So I was doing play-by-play.
You were getting a head start,
Getting a head
yes.
start.
Yes.
We would go to Great Neck and Roslyn and all the neighboring towns and call games. The U.S. Merchant
And
Marine
trying to get
Academy.
into this industry, you kill for opportunities like
Right.
that.
So just getting the reps in so many different sports. We would do basketball, baseball, hockey, football, soccer, lacrosse. So really, had a great variety back then. So there's a chapter about that. Went to NYU. We had a great basketball program there, Division III. So a lot of us called those games. Actually played club hockey in both high school and college. Scored the first goal in NYU history. Didn't
Wow.
score many goals.
Right. But you scored the first. That's all
scored
that
the
matters.
first.
Yes.
And it turns out, played against John Cooper, the head coach of the Lightning. He was at Hofstra.
Look at you.
And we made this connection a couple of years ago that we played against each other.
Cooper's crazy, by the way.
He's the best.
Yeah.
He's the best. Such a great guy,
Yes.
great coach, obviously.
Yes.
So the book, and then I delve into the early years at Fox and the years with the Skipjacks, and there's a chapter about travel stories, because I certainly have a lot of them.
Sure.
There's a chapter about the COVID years and how we broadcasted games during that time. There's a chapter about the Olympics. There's a chapter about some of the crazy long games I've done. When I think locally, I don't know if you remember a Dolphins game about 5 years ago. It was the only punter to kicker touchdown pass in NFL history.
Yes.
On a fake field goal.
Yes.
So I mentioned that one.
Right.
In football, I worked, the Terrell Owens game in the early 2000s, stomping on the Cowboys star.
Right.
When he was with the Niners.
Yeah.
I had the game when Michael Vick had the crazy overtime touchdown run in Minnesota. The Patriots game a couple of years ago in Vegas, the lateral, at the end of the game, and Chandler Jones took it back the other way. 4 overtime games, 20-inning games. So I write a lot about some of those memorable games that I've worked, about the color analysts. I have a list in the back of the book. I might hold the record. I worked with about 250 color analysts in the various sports, some of them one game only,
Right.
Others for 10, 15, 20 years. So a chapter on the various color
Do you
analysts
pinch
as
yourself,
well.
man? Like, Kenny, you wanted to do this since you were a kid, since you were 5 years old, and you're doing it at a level that your dad was doing it at. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, no, I do. I'll take a step back sometimes. I write in the book about getting that tape recorder when I was 5
Yeah.
and calling games either in my bedroom or your basement. at
Right,
the
yes.
time.
Yeah, yes.
It
You
is-
actually did this.
It
yes.
is crazy when I
Yes.
look back, at the number of games, and having worked 3 games with Troy Aikman, 3 games with Joe Namath, a Sugar Bowl with Howie Long and Terry Bradshaw.
Amazing.
Notre Dame, LSU.
Yeah.
Some of the great analysts in the other sports, Tim McCarver, Walt Frazier, all the great hockey analysts. So I do take a step back. Just saw the NFL Network replayed the other day a great playoff game that I called. It was an unbelievable game, the 49ers and the Saints in 2012.
Yeah.
With Drew Brees and
Yes.
Alex Smith going back and forth.
Great game.
So
Yeah.
a lot of great memories, and the first two games of this series, the Stanley Cup Final,
Amazing.
Among the two best games
you'll
that I've
see.
seen.
Yeah.
Our crew with Eddie Olczyk and Brian Boucher, we had the Alex Ovechkin record-breaking game when he scored his 895th goal.
Mm-hmm.
So real fortunate to be involved in a lot of great games such as the ones we just mentioned.
Kenny, I don't have a question, but you're taking over the full-time Rangers TV job from Sam Rosen with him retiring. My dad actually cut Sam's hair.
What?
And if you need somebody to cut your hair, my dad could. If you need
You were telling me the story earlier, and Sam actually visited our booth last night in Sunrise with his wife, Jill.
Right.
They're down here in Florida. Sam's one of the all-time greats. I know both of you guys grew up watching Sam.
Love Sam.
He's a Hall of Famer, Foster Hewitt Award back in 2016.
Yes.
I remember when Sam took over, believe it or not, 40 years ago,
right.
When I was in my teens. I've been with the Rangers and MSG for 29 years. Have loved each and every second of working there and calling the games. And now to slide over to the TV side, quite the honor to fill Sam's shoes. There have only been two television play-by-play voices of the Rangers in the last 50 years, Jim Gordon and Sam Rosen. So quite the honor. But I sat next to Sam on the team flights for the last 29 years.
So cool.
And, talking about sports and about our families. And
Did you ever wonder where he got his haircut?
that never really came up.
No one ever wondered that.
What's your dad's name?
Andy.
Are you offering a free haircut to Kenny?
I'll have to mention it to him.
Yeah.
Sam got his tickets.
Okay.
To the Rangers game.
So you're saying in exchange for tickets, Kenny can get a free haircut from your dad?
He didn't just cut his hair
God,
once.
you
It
are
was
me.
like a long-time relationship.
Yes.
Andy.
Yes.
All right.
Are you going to go see him?
I'm going to text him.
Can you?
text him about
Kenny, I am begging you to go get a haircut from Taylor's dad, and I'll have you on the air from the seat. Okay.
So we took a picture last night. So Jonathan Vilma, my NFL on Fox
yes,
partner,
of course.
also was at the game
Love
last
him.
night.
Right.
So he came up to the booth.
Everyone's
Sam
a
was
hockey
up in
fan.
So we have a picture of me, Eddie Olczyk,
Right.
Sam Rosen, and Jonathan Vilma from last night.
Wow, that is so great. Are you going to take Taylor up on his offer here?
I might have to check into it. I only live about 20 minutes from where Sam lives.
It's going to cost you some tickets. I need to get you out of here. I know you're in a rush. We appreciate you doing this. What is Stanley?
We could chat for hours.
I mean, I want to talk. I really just want to talk about Port Washington and Larry Holzer.
I have a little bit more time. We're good.
All right, so I'm wondering.
What time do you have? I'm not looking at my.
I got 11:08.
All right, we can go for 5 or 10 more.
All right, we got 5 or 10 more. Is there a sport? What's the most difficult sport for you to call?
Great question. I read about it in my book.
Right.
To me, hockey is the easiest, which most people think would be the hardest.
Because it's the quickest?
Because people think it would be the hardest because of the constant line changes and
right.
all the European
and the
names.
Yes.
But I've been doing it for so long that it's like riding a bike.
Right.
Especially on radio, which I've done for a long time.
Sure.
You're calling the game continuously.
Yes.
All the description. TV, you don't have to describe as much. You could pull back. You don't have to give the score and time a lot because they could see it on the screen. Basketball is similar to hockey, but a little bit slower. But the ball's in action for 48 minutes.
Right.
Football is the most rhythmic. It's one play, 20 or 25 seconds. Another play, 20 or 25 seconds. Baseball, to me, was always the most challenging. I didn't do as many baseball games, and there was so much downtime. The ball's only in action between 8 and 12 minutes per game in baseball. So
you got to fill a lot of time
to fill.
Yeah.
But with the pitch clock, it's actually helped out from a broadcast standpoint because it's moving a lot faster.
Sure.
I've enjoyed the challenge through the years of doing whether it's volleyball, water polo, track and field, boxing, some of the other sports I've worked. The one that I think back, I was working in Washington around 94, 95 for Home Team Sports, a cable station, and we did a lot of college ACC sports. And I was once assigned to college wrestling.
Right.
So I studied. I actually spoke to an Olympic wrestler, Jeff Blatnick, I was connected with.
Yep.
Did a lot of reading and watching some prior events. Luckily, I had a great color analyst who had wrestled at the University of North Carolina, which is where this event took place, because once it started, I had no idea what I was watching.
Right.
No clue. So I was like the traffic cop. I would set it up. Here's John Wiener, 22 years of age, a senior from Port Washington, New York, with a record of 19-0, going up against so-and-so. And then once they started, I let him take it away.
That's so good. I want Kenny to do play-by-play of us doing a show, Taylor.
Now, the water polo. So in the last Olympics,
yes.
Now it was off monitors. We were doing it remotely from Stamford, Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
During COVID, a lot of broadcasts were done remotely, and some still are. So that was a lot of fun. I had never done water polo. Doc Emmerich had done it on a couple of occasions at the Olympics. He sent me some notes.
It just dawned on me when you said Doc Emmerich. You replaced Doc Emmerich, and you're about to replace Sam Rosen. Like, Jesus.
Two legends who I've known for a long time. And
wow.
Doc Emmerich's the Vin Scully of hockey,
yes.
and Sam Rosen, one of the greatest of all time. But water polo, and people told me it actually sounded like I was calling hockey. They had power plays. A lot of the terminology was similar. So you were able to transfer some of that to another sport on occasion.
Water polo. What sport haven't you called?
You know, I never called tennis. Somebody asked me about that.
Really?
Recently.
You'd be great at tennis.
I enjoy tennis. I
yes.
enjoy watching.
I know you love tennis. Yeah.
But I've never called tennis. Never called golf. I worked one golf event. Here's another funny story. This is in my book. I was working at WTOP radio in Washington when I was doing the Capitals games. And they had the rights to cover on the radio the Kemper Open, one of the big tournaments at the time in, I think, Bethesda or Rockville, Maryland. Mm-hmm. And they would have reporters walk from hole to hole, giving updates every 15 or 20 minutes on the radio. And I had never been to a golf tournament before.
Right.
And I was used to getting dressed up nicely for a sporting event if you're working, right? A hockey game, a basketball game. You know, you wear a nice shirt, sometimes a jacket and tie or a sweater. So I wore dress pants, a long sleeve shirt with a collar, and dress shoes to this golf tournament.
Yes.
Not realizing that I was going to have to walk the whole course on a 95-degree day. So the next day I was in a golf shirt and shorts and sneakers. But that was the first time I had to cover a golf tournament. I was not exactly dressed correctly.
This Stanley Cup is so fascinating. You have called many Panther games throughout these last couple of years on their runs to what hopefully is back-to-back Stanley Cups. Can you talk about, because for me, it reminds me of the Islander teams that we grew up watching, where it was this little team tucked away out on Long Island. No one was really paying attention. Then they exploded. They stole the sport. And here's this little team in Sunrise, made it to the Cup a couple of years ago. They lost. They made significant changes after losing that Cup to personnel and to the style of play. And here they are going for back-to-back. And I don't see them going the other way anytime soon. They're young, they're in their prime, they're a good team, and they're a deep team. Can you talk about this Panther team and just how good they are?
You know, that's a great comparison between the franchises. Now, the Islanders did win in their infancy.
Right.
You know, they came into the league in 72, won their first Cup in 80. Panthers did go to the Cup in 96, right?
Yes.
Their third season.
Yeah.
But their first general manager of the Panthers was Bill Torrey, who was the architect of those Islander teams. And Dennis Potvin was the longtime color analyst. So you had some crossover. That's really a great comparison between these current Panthers, the way they've been building up over the last 4 years. They win the President's Trophy in 22, go to the Cup final in 23, win the Cup in 24, and here they are again in 25. So great organization from the top down. Bill Zito's done a tremendous job. Paul Maurice won his 1,000th game as an NHL head coach last night, including playoffs, and that's third all time.
Right.
Just to get off track here for a minute, speaking of Long Island hockey, I met a kid last night.
Right.
He came up to our booth named James Hagans, who's one of the top prospects.
Really?
They had the top 4 prospects for this year's draft.
Wow.
And he's from Long Island.
Excellent.
He's going to be one of the top,
I love that.
somewhere in the top 3, top 4 picks.
Right.
He's from Hop Hog, Long
Great.
Island.
Yeah, because usually it's lacrosse players from Long Island.
Right.
So, we got a hockey player, Kenny.
You know, we have a bunch. Adam Fox on the Rangers. A number of others. There's about 10, I think, in the league now who grew up on Long Island. But James Hagans plays at Boston College, projected to be one of the next superstars in the league.
Hey, Mike, for all seasons, go buy the book wherever books are sold.
Audiobook out as well.
Audiobook.
So
did you enjoy that process? The audiobook? I did it. It was I was awful at it.
Well, first of all, we have hardcover, paperback available, and the audiobook.
Right.
So the audiobook, I did it myself. I wanted it to be in my voice.
Of course.
And I recorded it in my closet. Believe it or not.
Why?
I'm not sure where you did yours. Did you go to an actual studio?
No, I went right. I was doing it out of my office.
Right. So I planned to do it in the home office, and I sent them a couple of samples, the audio folks, and they said there's some echo, there's a bunch of windows in the room, and they said if you have a closet big enough to sit in at least and record there, send us some samples. And they said, this is great, the way it bounces off the clothing.
Yes.
So I literally, not that the closet's that huge, but I was able to bring in a stool and a music-type stand to rest my iPad on.
Right.
Because they don't want you turning pages of an actual book.
Yes.
So it took about 5 days, 3 to 4 hours a day, sitting in the closet in my bedroom.
It seems like the height of sadness. I have to be honest with you.
I did take a couple of photos just to prove that that's where I taped it.
We appreciate you doing this, man. Feel free to use that Islanders analogy that I just gave you. Use it on the air, okay? Game 4, maybe give your friend John Wiener some credit. You know,
Great
that'd be nice
analogy.
of you, Kenny.
Yeah, great analogy. No, thanks for the invitation.
Yes.
It's been a long time.
Yes.
Look forward to reconnecting with your brother.
Yes.
I will send the Holzer family your regards.
Please do. Say hi to Lara. Yes.
Hopefully we can do it again.
Yes. Hopefully we'll do it again from a chair in Taylor's dad's barbershop. Okay, can we do that?
Perfect. Let's set up a date.
Yes, it's a date. Kenny Albert, we appreciate this, man. Have a good rest of the Stanley Cup. Enjoy there is no off season. I was going to tell you enjoy the off season. You don't have one, Kenny.
More downtime in the summer than the rest of the year, so
Right.
we'll try to enjoy it.
All right, man. We appreciate this very much.
All right, thanks.
No, it's a busy time for you.